Hello and good evening, conservatives of Texas. Alex here. Um, Wanted to give you guys an update over our meeting last week that we had with our city leadership here in Amarillo, Texas, concerning these particulars and what these particulars were. Went to a Cinco de Mayo event back in May for a Cinco de Mayo festival. And at the festival, at their health endorsed, or the Amarillo, City of Amarillo health endorsed booth, they had items there that were found not to be very suitable for children. At the same booth, there were condoms, lubricant, and coloring books with little toys and whatnot for children. And so we had a meeting to discuss the matter. I will say that the meeting lasted for about an hour and 10 or 15 minutes. We had about 20 people there, not including the 3 that were there in regards to the city of Amarillo. And I do appreciate them taking the time to allow us to address the situation. We had our Assistant City Manager, Jared Miller. We had an individual by the name of Carolyn. I didn't catch her last name. And we had Jennifer Lemitas, which helped me organize the meeting. And I'm very thankful for her. She was very, very helpful in the last several weeks in getting this all coordinated. So thank you, Ms. Lemitas, for helping me out. So to the meeting, we had about 19 or 20 people, like I mentioned before, folks that are concerned citizens here in our city. We discussed many items from, the age restrictions and whatnot, the data supporting what these types of endorsements a lot for when it comes to the numbers concerning whether or not, even outside of the boundaries of some of these items not being suitable for children, is it working? And the numbers are increasing in gonorrhea, STD, or in STDs such as gonorrhea and syphilis and chlamydia. Also, pregnancy for teens is really skyrocketing all across the board. And so one of our topics of discussion wasn't just the situation with products being out there with coloring books, but was also to see if we could supplement some of these efforts with a corresponding booth in the future that would speak on abstinence and biblically based teachings. And I am pleased to say that these folks are very open to that. They can't endorse it themselves, with it being titled, this is from the city or whatnot. But they did say that we can accompany at these locations with our materials, which is very pleasing to hear. To know that they are telling us we can do something like that. So what I'd like to address with folks listening to this that may want to accompany these booths that are presented out there by the city of Amarillo as health awareness, please get a hold of me. Contact me. My email is G as in Gary, A as in Alex, L as in Larry, bear, just like the animal, BEAR at hotmail.com. If your church would like to get a booth ready to some degree where we can list some alternatives to just handing out items to folks that teach on abstinence, and also a biblically based format, please get a hold of me. Out of the 20 that we had there, I'm sure that we could get at least 5 of those folks to rotate in and out throughout the months, throughout the year, and we can start to set some type of platform or template, giving folks the alternative, sexuality and things of that nature in our community. From what we've heard from, certain groups, hey, it's going to happen. We want them to be protected. But, as a Christian, we understand that there are ways that we can endorse biblically based teachings to better prepare folks into a successful pattern of courtship, trusting your partner, of being in a relationship, looking towards marriage, and things of that sort. And that'll naturally create the residual in our community, but it's going to be one of a responsible nature, one of a loving nature, and it's going to naturally increase the factors of just success, all in all, in our community, if we're addressing these in a biblically based and sound foundation. So we had several people speak. We had Kelsey Richardson say a few things. She was pretty phenomenal. She made mention of how important it is to have God implemented. She showed and discussed some numbers of how STDs and teenage pregnancy and other components of, or residual effects, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to say components, other effects of taking God out of the public forum. So she spoke very well concerning those matters. She made her point very clear and concise. We had a nurse from the 60s that spoke on how syphilis was almost out of the way until we started endorsing these types of safe sex components that, in my opinion, I mean, if you're increasing the optics more and more, I just think that people are naturally going to be attracted to seeing what that's all about. And there has to be a mature balance in these efforts. We had London Cope. She spoke for a few, made some really good points. I did bring up, the puberty blockers that are being rolled out in bigger cities. We were told by our city leadership that would never happen here. And so I was glad to hear that puberty blockers the information would not be presented, or would these items be handed out. So these are grants that are supplied to our city, and there are certain items that they roll out for these booths that are basically ones of concern, because that's why I brought up to our city leadership was the point that if these folks are packaging these items, accompanying these grants, then how can we be so sure that items like puberty blockers won't one day accompany these booths? So I was glad to hear the response from our city leadership in saying that this would never occur in Amarillo, Texas. So I'm thankful for that. Excuse me. Another point that we brought up was the grants, the federal and or the local. What's the case there? And we were told that no city taxpayer money is taking care of these. That's when I think London spoke up and said, well, it's still our taxes, be it federal. And so she's right. In some way or another, we are paying for it. And so the main message that we wanted to implement was not only were these items not suitable and should have been near children, but there is no taxation without representation, and that's why we showed up to be represented. And I will mention that Kelsey made a really good point saying that the majority of the folks here in Amarillo are faith-based. We are Christian. We are believers. And why is it that our representation is being overlooked when it comes to the very few that are wanting these items? That's fine and dandy, but if we're the majority in the city of Amarillo, why are we constantly being overlooked? So that was a good point by Kelsey. So, like I said, I just wanted to come on here and give an update of how that went. I would grade it about an 86, 87. We are going to have follow-up in about, I would say, 25 more days. I'm going to reach out to Jennifer Ramirez, and we're going to work on a program to where we can have a map, a date, when these trucks are going to be out, and we're going to accompany them. I did make a note that some of these groups here in Amarillo are advertising to children, and are we looking at the liability, when it comes to background checks and whatnot, and with the city being part of these booths, it might be something you might want to look at. There's groups out here in Amarillo that are requesting these booths that are supplied by our tax dollars, that are advertising and inviting children. And so that is one point that we made was, are we looking at the liability? Like I said, this booth, it was all together. And from what they said, the reason they had it together was because of the heat. They had to pack them together, but they are going to be looking into how they presented these items in the future. And so we weren't there to criticize. We weren't there to lambaste anybody. We were there to make our voices known, to present our position in the situation. And I feel that the city of Amarillo was very, very receiving of what our message was. And I think that the meeting overall was a success. So I would like to say thank you, Jared, for taking the time out of your busy schedule to take some time. And he spoke quite a bit. I'll have to say he wasn't in a shell in any regard. He spoke about his Christian beliefs. He spoke about how important it is for for our voices to be heard. He was very appreciative that we rolled it out in this manner. So I will say thank you, Jared, for giving us the time. Carolyn, for you as well. And Miss Jennifer, I will be reaching out to you, and we'll get this worked out. And I will mention that Jennifer said that the meeting was very enlightening, very informative. And so thank you again, Jennifer, for all you did to get this together. And for all you folks out there, again, my email, galbear@hotmail.com. You can reach me there if you're interested in getting something together with your church. We would love to present some items, some materials for these folks in our community to look at, some other aspects, some other ways to look at relationships, courtship in a biblically sound direction. And so thank you guys for your time. I really appreciate you guys. God bless you, and to God goes all the glory. In Jesus' mighty name, we pray for success in this venue, and we pray for our city of Amarillo. We lift up our leadership, and please tune in tomorrow. I am going to have Cole Stanley on, our Conservatives of Texas Off the Cuff. We do that show at 7 p.m., and we will be on with our city councilman, Cole Stanley, tomorrow, 7 p.m. Be blessed. Y'all have a good night.